In the aftermath of the financial crisis of 2008, we have done a good job of understanding why contagion spread so quickly through the system, why financial institutions were so vulnerable to shocks, and why the regulatory framework failed to prevent bank failure and panic. We have not, however, done a good job of understanding the housing boom and bust that was at the heart of the crisis itself. While the irrational exuberance in housing is often attributed to excessive greed or reckless lending, we believe there is something much more fundamental at work: the nature of the relationship between asset prices and credit itself. We understand from monetary economics that expanding money supply leads to an inflation in the price of goods and services. As the supply of money increases relative to available goods and services, the value of goods and services rises relative to the value of money. This we call inflation. Similarly, we understand from studies of financial crisis that asset price bubbles occur concurrent to credit booms. As extension of credit proliferates, money flows into risky assets, resulting in rapidly rising prices. This we call an asset price bubble. But why is it that the transverse is not true? Why do credit booms not result in an inflation in prices of goods and services? And why does expansion of money supply not result in asset price bubbles? During the most severe financial crisis in recent history, credit growth and asset price inflation occurred together. In the build-up to the housing bust, household debt as a percentage of GDP grew over 60% in the late 90s to close to 100% in late 2007. We believe the answer has to do with the interest rate, the cost of debt. Because debt carries an interest rate, those who incur it must either sacrifice future spending in order to finance it, or earn a rate of return equal to or greater than the rate of interest they have to pay. For this reason, credit tends to seek risk, because risky assets tend to earn a high enough rate of return in order to compensate the cost of debt that has been incurred. This is why credit booms and asset price bubbles go hand in hand. In order for there to be an expansion in credit, potential debtors must have access to an asset that is appreciating in value. For an asset to continue to appreciate in value beyond a justifiable level, there must be a constant flow of credit-based money into it. So what is the solution to this problem? Well, let's begin with a drastic example. Imagine a world with no credit. Without the short-term credit cycle, business cycles would largely go away. Without credit booms and busts, asset price bubbles and financial crises would go away. In a world where everything is funded by equity, growth is generally lower but more stable over the long term. Equity investors might be willing to invest in productive uses of capital, but they would almost certainly be unwilling to finance spending on goods and services that consumers cannot afford. The world would look a lot less exciting, but a lot more stable. A world like this is unrealistic and unnecessary. Credit performs a highly productive function in the economy. It is excesses in certain kinds of credit that create problems. We can mitigate many of these problems by bridging the gap between debt and equity. Robert Shiller of Yale University is an early proponent of risk sharing. He has vocally supported the idea of GDP-linked sovereign bonds and mortgages that have their principal balances adjust automatically based on the health of the debtor. We believe these are the first steps towards a state of the world in which debt starts to look a lot like equity, with creditor returns dependent on debtor incomes. Such a world would be more stable and less prone to crisis.